Good job.
President, please be seated. The court is now in session today. This afternoon, the chamber will start to hear 2 TCW 1065. This witness will testify about the armed conflict. Before we proceed to hear this witness has been interviewed in other cases, and the court investigating judges have categorized this witness in Group A in the memorandum E 309/35, and the court investigating judges request that this witness pseudonym should be used to ensure the judicial integrity. This request is accordance with the laws. However, this confidentiality shall be balanced with the rights and also the integrity of the investigation. And the chamber advised parties to refer to document E307/3 when they want to use the document, rather E319/7. And the court officer, please invite the witness into the courtroom together with the duty counsel. President, good afternoon, Mr. Witness. In the course of the testimony, based on the request of the co-investigating judges, the chamber will use your pseudonym 2 TCW 1065. Parties and the chamber will call you Mr. Witness. And please be informed that the chamber will prohibit parties to use your surname or first name in the course of the proceedings. That applies. The chamber also uses your pseudonym as well, not your first name and surname. Court officer, please bring the document about his identity for the witness to have a look. President, Mr. Witness, the chamber now would like you to confirm your identity in document E3/10669, Eon in Khmer 008084. and even in interpreters, miss one number from the President. And even in English, 0097 68 63. French 0001000137. And please confirm your identity, particularly in relation to your first name, surname, first name, your parents' name, your wife's name, your the number of your children, your current address, and also your place of birth. Please inform the chamber which part you believe is incorrect. Again, please have a look at the yellow highlighted sentences, whether or not they are correct. Witness, concerning the orange highlighted sentences, they are all correct, said the witness. President, thank you, Mr. Witness. The greffier made the report this morning that you have no relationship by blood or by law to the two accused, Kyusampon and Nguyen Jie, and parties admitted to this case. Is that correct? Please observe the microphone, Mr. Witness. Witness, I have no connection with any of the convicted persons, said the witness. President, they are not convicted persons, Mr. Witness. They are now still the accused. They have not yet been convicted yet. I mean, Kyusampon and Nguyen Jie. Mr. Witness, have you already taken an oath before the Iron Club statue before you are here? Witness, I took an oath already before the Iron Club statue. President, thank you, Mr. Witness. I am now informing you of your rights and obligations as a witness in this chamber. As a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you, right, against your self-incrimination. As a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comments to those questions may incriminate you, as the chamber has just informed you of your rights as a witness. These are your obligations. You, as a witness, must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or parties pose to you. Mr. Witness, have you ever provided interviews or been interviewed by the investigators of the OCIJ, and if that happened, how many times and where? Answer. I was interviewed once in 2012 at Jikai village, Vihia Luang commune, Bong Khmom district, Kampong Jam province at the time. I was interviewed once, Mr. President. President, thank you. Mr. Witness, before you are here, have you reviewed or read the written record or written records of your interview you provided to investigator of the OCIJ to refresh your memory? Witness, I have read already. I have completed reading it. President, to your best knowledge and recollection. Does the written record of the interview correspond to the statements you gave to the investigator at the time? Answer. Regarding this record of interview, it is correct, Mr. President. I read it already and I have listened to the reading of it as well. President, Mr. Witness, you are assisted by the duty counsel as requested by you, and the duty counsel's name is Chan Sambo. Now please put the document back. I have some questions to put to you, Mr. Witness, in relation to the events that happened. The first question is, when exactly did you join the revolution? Answer. I joined the revolution on 29 March 1970 at Svay Rieng. The reason that I joined is because of the late king father appealing for children to go into the jungle markets. President, what was your first function after you joined the revolution? Did you work a civilian function, or were you a soldier at the time? Answer. I joined in 1970 as a soldier. I was a soldier for 1 year. Question. Which unit were you in? Answer. I joined as a soldier in Svay Rieng in Samrang district. Now there is no Samrang district. Samrang is now in Svay Rieng province, not Praveen. Question. So you became a district soldier at the time, is that correct? Answer. Yes, that is correct. President, to expedite the hearing of your testimony, I would just like you to describe your function as a soldier from the time you joined the revolution on 29 March 1970 up to 17 April 1975. Which unit were you in? Do you recall it? And what was your real function at the time? Answer. Allow me to inform the chamber. I am now telling you about the period of 1970. I was a soldier for 1 year. Then I went to attend medical training. I became a medic from 1971 up to 1976. The medic at the battle front. I was not a civilian, medics for civilians. I was with the soldiers as a medic at the battle front from 1971 up to 1976. Question. Which unit were you in when you worked as a medic? Answer. From 1971 up to 1975, said the witness, I was a medic in the district level. After the victory of Phnom Penh, that is the liberation of Phnom Penh, I went to become a medic at Swai Rieng. That is Hospital 156. I became the chief of the medics at the time. Division 4. President. Besides being a medic from 1971 up to 1975, you again were a medic, and from 1975 up to 1976 you were still a medic in Unit 156. Could you tell the chamber in detail your role and function from 1976 up to 1979? Were there any changes in your function from that time, 1976 up until 1979? Answer. Let me continue to tell the chamber. I am now informing the chamber about the period of 1976. In 1976, I became the chief of the hospital. In late 1977, Cambodia and Vietnam started to have a conflict. I became a medic at the front battlefield. There was a conflict between Cambodia and Vietnam. In December 1977, the fighting started. It lasted until 25 May 1978, during which Pol Pot committed a coup d'etat in Cambodia, said the witness, and during the time people were killed. My soldiers, from commanders of divisions down to chief of platoons, were called to a meeting at the time. I did not go to attend. Why? Since everyone went to join a meeting, I had to station at the battlefront at the time, because when there was a intensified fighting with Vietnam. At around 4 p.m. one day, cadres were arrested. One left. And there was one person led by them to the well. And that cadre, after seeing the well, jumped across the well and ran away. He was shot with the gun and got injured in one of his arms. He ran to see me and told me that cadres who were invited to the meeting had all been arrested. I learned about that from the person who got injured in his hand, and I realized that Pol Pot committed a treason. After hearing that, I called all cadres from Unit 156 to a meeting and informed those people that Pol Pot committed a coup d'etat or a treason, and what should we do. I discussed with my soldiers, and my soldier asked me where they should go. I told them to keep calm. However, some went to their homes And I was still there to counter the attack, the fighting of the Vietnamese. I had three at the time because there was intense fighting. I had to retreat 300 soldiers with me, and I arranged a plan to attack Pol Pot. At the time, I and my soldiers did not only attack the Vietnamese troops, but also troops of Pol Pot, because I had to face with the two groups, opposing parties. During the time that I went into the forest to fight, I had no food to eat. I had no salt. We could only find very little salt to eat. But I had to struggle to survive. When I survived with my soldier, the people could survive as well. I waged the attacks against Pol Pot 2 times a day. I attacked Pol Pot to get medicines, rice, and food, and weapons. I was in the east at the front battlefield attacking Vietnam and Pol Pot. They were all enemies to me at the time. I started to engage in fighting, and later on I could gather ammunition, hammocks, and other stuff. I started to fight from that time onward from Mê Mốt to Suong. Only I at the time had the forces to counterattack, to attack Pol Pot. In 1978, in October 1978, I was still in the jungle, but I was on mobile at the time. I had organized a espionage group to get information. They were on mobile. They did not stay in the one specific place. One day, they could find a letter with red ink, and the letter says they wanted to contact us. The letter was sent to me, and I read it, and I asked my soldiers in the espionage group who wanted to contact. I had arranged 10 of my soldiers to go and observe who wanted to contact my unit. Then they could see the espionage group. They wanted to communicate and cooperate with the Khmer forces at the time. Although seeing that they wanted to cooperate with my soldier, did not believe in them yet. I had a discussion with 12 of my soldiers, and I had later on negotiation and discussion with Vietnamese soldier at Tuot. At the time, that was in November, I had the discussion with the Vietnamese soldier, and I was invited to go to Vietnam and get ammunition. I brought 60 soldiers with me at the time to go to Vietnam and get military staff and equipment from Vietnam. After I collected all ammunition, I again started the plan, the attack. I cooperated with Vietnam at the time in order to seize back 1,000 people. We, at the time, with Vietnam, used people to go with us. And we started to attack the Khmer Rouge. The Khmer Rouge, seeing people, they was confused. During the attack against the Khmer Rouge, I was walking, I together with my soldier were walking on one side and the Vietnamese troops were walking on another side and people were walking in the middle row. Later on, I was sick and I asked the permission from the Vietnam. In fact, at the time, Vietnam asked to invite me to go and organize a front. I told Vietnam that I was sick. I had a fever. I could not go. I had to stay at the battlefront. One day at 1 p.m., there was a helicopter landing, and the helicopter wanted to take me. I, at the time, did not want to go, but I was carried into the helicopter. And the helicopter then headed for Ho Chi Minh. I arrived at Ho Chi Minh at around 5 p.m. I stayed in Ho Chi Minh for 1 week. Then there was a decision to change my function and my role. I was transferred to be part of the coordination committee with Vietnam. So the affairs in relation to Vietnam had to go through me. And Ta Chun was part of the coordination committee for Cambodia. I was then removed and transferred to Long Thanh School.
I was there for about a week, though I did not attend any course. In fact, there was a 3-day course studying about the resources in Cambodia. Then I went to Long Yao. I used to send 400 soldiers to study in Long Yao. And while I was in Long Yao, I rested there with the commander of Region 7. And not long after, we held our discussion. We needed to find a strategy to attack, because at the time Pol Pot was killing people and herding people away, and we studied and discussed on the location on the map, that if we attack in that way, then the people would be thrown off into the river. Then we had to use a strategy that is a quick jump strategy in order to split the forces of the Khmer Rouge and to rescue the civilians. And then we launched the attack or the assault campaign. And by 1979, when the country fell, I was reassigned to take charge of Region 2, that is Prey Svai Rieng, Kampong Cham and Kampong Throm. And by that time I was charged the police department and not the military one. They assigned 30 Khmer and 30 Vietnamese to protect me. But at the time I was not the chief. They were the chief. They took charge of all the affairs. However, in my deputy position, sometimes I disagree with their decisions, because we had agreed in principle, that is the 5 points principles in Ho Chi Minh. We had disagreement with the Vietnamese side. I was a person of principle, and I would protect Cambodia, because we had the Cambodians as the mastery of the country. President interrupts. You will be asked more questions since you will testify for 2 days. I only want to put some initial questions to establish the foundations of the proceedings during your testimony. You made mentions that from December 1977 there was a conflict with Vietnam in the area that you were based. My first question is the following. In which military unit you were attached to at the time of the conflict, and what was your position? Answer. The conflict started indeed in December 77. At the time, I was chairman of Hospital 156. Question. Was Hospital 157 under the coordination of the division or the zone? Answer. It was under the division. Question. Regarding Division 4, do you know the names of the commander and deputy commanders while you were under that division in 1977? Answer. Allow me to respond. Initially, the commander was Tapon, and Heng Samrin was in charge of the military, and the deputies were Kum and Kri, and I forget their surnames. Question. And where was this? Where was the headquarters of Division 4? That is, at the time the war started. Answer. Division 4 headquarters was located in Craig. Question. You said that there was a meeting at the headquarters of Division 4, and it was chaired by forces from the Central Zone, and participants were commanders ranging from companies to battalions, and later on those commanders were arrested and killed, and only one survived after he was fired and wounded. What about the commander and deputy commanders of that division? Where were they? Answer. They were at the battlefront, and later on they were called to a meeting in Krat, and they were arrested. Heng Samrin had been reassigned to a staff office in Prey Veng. As for the rest, they were arrested right at the Krat. Question. What about the secretary or the commander of Divisional Commander Pond? What was his fate? Answer. Regarding the fate of Division Commander Pond, he was actually called away in 1976 and disappeared, and there remained only Heng Samrin. Question. You also made mentions about the start of the conflict. Since you are a witness of the armed conflict in this court, you said that the conflict started in December 1977 with Vietnam. Through your experience or observation, since you are directly involved in the military affairs since 1970 onward, And you were yourself right in the middle of the conflict. Although your position was in the middle, we have a lot of questions to put to you. What was the actual root cause of the conflict between Vietnam and Cambodia in the area that you were based in the East Zone? Can you describe it? Answer. Allow me to report it to you. There were two cause roots of the conflict. The conflict initially started in 1973. It was about materials that the superpowers provided to these countries, and they were not equal. And the second conflict that led to war was the border issue, because of the unclear border demarcation that led to the conflict. Question. You spoke about the conflicts of the materials. What was the scale of such conflicts that led to a fierce fight between Vietnam and Cambodia? Answer. The conflict in 1973 is that all war materials which were provided to Cambodia and Vietnam was from the same source, that is from China. And when those military materials, including ammunition, uniforms, they were all supplied through Vietnam. But when China sends those supplies, for example, let's say China supplied 100, we received only 60. So we lost 40. Then we were disappointed, and that's the initial root cause of the conflict. And that's what happened in 1973. Then there was a meeting held, and that we no longer worked together. The Khmer people should move to the Khmer side, and Vietnamese should move to the Vietnamese side. And there were only one or two experts attached to each side. So that the started of the conflict. And the second issue, as I said, is the border issue. Because after we examined the border, the demarcation is not proper, and so that led to the conflict. Question. Since you were a soldier at the border, and as I told you, the proceedings focuses on the armed conflict between Vietnam and Cambodia. Amongst the geographical areas along the Cambodian-Vietnam border, I'd like to ask you about your statement that you said there was a border conflict. How widespread reverses that led to the conflict, or who started to violate the territorial integrity of another country, or who claims that another country violated the border, or was it a conflict amongst those who claims the rice farming areas, or what was the actual cause, and who actually started the armed confrontation first? And here I only focus on the area that you were in, that is in the East Zone. Answer. Regarding the conflict here and here, I only speak about the conflict in the East Zone. The conflict was the result of a border issue, because some Khmer villages were found to be lost because they were on the Vietnamese side. And then observers and investigators have to go to the ground to actually examine and see what the real situation on the ground was like. And they could not solve the issue. They could not do it. There were meetings, however, there was no solution. So what could we do? The only thing that we could do was to resort to armed conflict. We held the meeting, and the armed conflict started that very night from both sides, spontaneously. And it started from that onward, and it started everywhere. Question regarding the border demarcation in the East Zone, and of course you are very familiar with the East Zone area. Can you tell the chamber what was the starting point to the north, stretching to the south part? Because to the north it was to the northeast, and stretching down it was attached to the East Zone. Here I refer to the map. And can you try to tell the chamber the starting point from the further north point? That is the north point, that is the starting point of the East Zone, flowing down to the south point, that is to cover the entire East Zone border. And how long was the border area for the East Zone? Answer. If you talk about the distance, I cannot tell you. However, I can tell you about the border area in Kampong Cham province. There were some villages which fall off the map. For example, Swai Pagoda, Knau village, Kradah village. They were close to the house of the current president of the National Assembly, and I can tell you there they are no longer on the map. So where did they disappear? And that is the root cause of the conflict. The conflict with the neighboring country, that is. And if you don't believe me, you can go and see the situation on the ground. President, that is all right. I ask you this question because you have mentioned that the border area in the East Zone, the armed conflict started spontaneously throughout that one night, and that's why I want to know about the length of the border area within the East Zone. We have heard some testimonies, although some are not clear. For example, regarding the border area in Mondulkiri, and at the times the situation there was not that intensified as you suggested. Also, in the entire East Zone, can you tell the chamber how many divisions did the East Zone have, and what are their numbers, and where were they based at the time? Answer. In the East Zone, there were 3 divisions. Division 3, 4, and 5, respectively. There were only 3 divisions, and Division 3 was based in Svay Rieng, while Division 4 was at National Road number 7, and Division 5 was newly formed. And together with all the sectors in the division, namely Sector 20, 21, and 22. So allow me to say again, there were only 3 divisions in the East Zone. Question. And how many soldiers there were in each division? Answer. Each division had over 7,000 soldiers. A battalion had 120 soldiers, says the witness. I made a mistake. In fact, for one company, there were about 120 soldiers, and for a battalion, there were about 500 soldiers. Questioned. And what about the commanders and the deputy commanders of Division 3 and 5? Do you know their names? Answer. I only know the commanders. For Division 3, the commander was June. As for Division 5, the commander was Chun. However, they all died. And for Division 4, it was Heng Samran, who is now the President of the National Assembly. Question. You said that Division 3 was based in Svay Rieng. Do you know the headquarters of Division 3? Answer. I do not know the division headquarters. I only know that it was based in Svay Rieng. Question. That is alright. What about Division 5? Where was its headquarters based? That is the newly formed division, as you indicated. Answer. It was a station at National Road number 7. And that was formed only after the Vietnamese had attacked. Previously, Chun was from 156 with me, but later on he was reassigned to take charge of the newly formed Division 5. Question. In the East Zone, that is prior to the conflict with Vietnam, as you indicated, that it was started in December 77. Was there any unit of the Central Army based in that zone? If so, how many divisions there were? Here I refer to the period prior to December 77. Answer. Prior to 1977, there was no Central Army. There were only East Zone Army. I only know about the East Zone Army. The East Zone Army themselves controls the zone. Question. I only ask you general question. You have made mention rather extensively in your previous statement, and you spoke at length about the armed conflicts that happened inside Cambodian territory. Starting from December 77 onward, did the Cambodian side at any point in time use their forces to penetrate Vietnamese territory? Answer. During the course of a fighting to penetrate Vietnamese territory, and as I said, the campaign was launched in December 77 in the East Zone, and I cannot testify about other zones. That was the only times that the penetration was back and forth. We pushed them and we were pushed back. And later on, there was no such penetration. We were there only to contain them. We did not have any force to push them back. And we had to successively retreat it. We could not fight against the Vietnamese troops. Question: you speak about the penetration back and forth or the task of a war. Can you tell us when did it happen and how far did you enter the Vietnamese territory? Answer: there were different units who entered the territory. Allow me to speak about my unit, that is 156. Our task was to attack Barrack 27 of Vietnam, and I could not say about other spearheads. We had to focus on the attack on the Barrack 27. We had to destroy that barrack. But during the course of fighting, it means that our forces were about half destroyed. Vietnamese side, they had intervention and support from a tank unit. And we fought for 3 days and 3 nights, and then we retreated back to the border area. And then the fighting kept continued. We could not penetrate them, and they could not penetrate us. However, they could penetrate the area where Unit 155 was in charge. Then they maneuvered through National Road number 7 and attacked us from behind. And at the time, I was wondering how come we were shelled by tanks from behind. In fact, there was a penetration at the area where Unit 155 was in charge. And subsequently, we had to retreat ourselves to the back in order to contain them. The fighting between Vietnam and Cambodia was so intensified at the time. Wounded soldiers had to be carried away under the ground. We could not carry them in the open. And that happens to both sides, to the Vietnamese side and to the Cambodian side. We did not fight each other from a long distance, for example, not from 100 meters away, but it was from 30 meters away. Question: when you try to enter and attack Barrack 27 on the Vietnamese side, how far was the barrack from the border area? Answer: Barrack 27 was a bit further from the Iron Bridge. It was not that far, but I cannot give you the distance in a kilometer. It was not that far from the Cambodian border. From the border, there was this spin dike or Iron Bridge, and a bit further there is this Barrack 27. Question: during the course of the armed conflict between Vietnam and Cambodia, can you give an example as to at which particular point in time that the Vietnamese side penetrated deep inside Cambodian territory, that is away from the border, and how far was it, and when did it happen? Answer. It happened in 1977, but I cannot recall the date. It was toward late 1977 when the Vietnamese attacked us via Road 7. They were about 20 kilometers deep inside our territory. They reached Khna village at the time. Khna village was in Sralop commune. They tried to go further toward the west, but they could not since we countered their advancement there. Then they had to retreat. Question: Khana village Sralop commune. Can you tell us the district or the province it was located in? Answer: it was in Sralop commune, Tabong Khmum district. That is, it is located along National Road number 7. Question: what kinds of troops Vietnamese employed during their penetration inside the Cambodian territory? Did they use tanks? Was there any aerial support? Answer: when we fought and attacked the Barrack 27, the Vietnamese side had all kinds of support. That is heavy artillery, that is 130mm artillery, tanks, and aerial support. However, when they penetrated into our territory, there was no aerial support. However, they used tanks, and we could shoot and burn some of their tanks. And as I said, they reached Khana village by that time. Question: you said it was your spearhead that you had to attack Barrack 27 of Vietnam. Can you tell the chamber who issued the orders to your units to attack Vietnamese Barrack 27 inside Vietnamese territory? Answer: at that time, I was a military medic at the front battlefield. I was not a commander, although I was at the front battlefield. I believed it was the zone's plan, because everything that the division did was according to the decision of the zone. Only after the zone made the decisions that then the division would deploy those battalions to attack.
President, from the period of December 1977 up to 1979, and based on your experience and according to your hard work at the battlefront, how many times did Vietnam penetrate into Cambodia, and how large was the destruction? There were two types of fighting. One was the fighting against another, I mean the standoff, and another one was the counterattack to defend the country or to liberate the country. Which year are you referring to, Mr. President? President, I am referring to the time when armed conflict occurred up until the intervention by the Central Army. There was at the time an accusation that there was a rebellion within the country and also externally. So I am asking you about the time when the conflict started up until the time when the center sent army to reinforce. Answer: in 2077, said the witness, there were no forces from the center to reinforce, although that there was a conflict with Vietnam. In 1977, the Vietnamese troop attacked into Cambodia, and at the time the Division 2 from the center was sent to assist us. It at the time coincided with the internal coup d'etat. Cadres were subject to execution from that time onward. I mean, from late 1977, cadres and staff members had been arrested from different offices and ministry and also from other places. It was from that time onwards that Pol Pot had conflicts within the country and also with Vietnam. From 25 December 1978, started to attack Pol Pot. President, thank you. I am now turning to another topic. I will come back to this topic once again. First, I would like to ask about your relationship. Do you know the leaders, some of the leaders in the East? Do you know some of the secretaries and deputy secretaries in the East? What were their names? Answer: regarding the leaders in the East, I know only one individual, Sao Pum alias Yang, alias Yan rather. Sao Pum and I was a distant relative. My grandmother and Sao Pum's mother was a biological sibling. My mother and my grandmother and Sao Pum was cousin, and I had a relationship with Sao Pum. Sao Pum said that Pol Pot did not betray all of us, but I myself believed that Sao Pum betrayed us, because Pol Pot killed people. And Sao Pum said, if Pol Pot betrayed us, why didn't Sao Pum tell him? In my reply, Sao Pum, the one who betrayed others, never told them. Sao Pum at the time was not sure in himself. That is why he decided to go to Vihia Suo, close to Tonle Sap, to ask for clarification about that. President, who were older? I mean, Sao Pum and you. When was Sao Pum born? And what was his birthplace? Do you recall, since you know him very well? Answer: I do not know his date of birth. but he was originally from Songkum village, commune, Kisaum commune, Svai Tiep district, Svai Rieng province. As for his date of birth, I have no idea. Question. You explained in detail about the politics, particularly about the coup d'etat and the treason. And also you made mention about the relationship, close relationship with Sao Pham. You were close to Sao Pham because of personal relationship, familiar relationship, or work relationship. Which one? Answer. We were related by blood, said the witness. Some of my family members worked in the Ministry of Agriculture, said the witness. My grandmother-in-law died at the period. I sometimes asked about his well-being. I know some of the matters. Question. When usually you had the opportunity to go to see him personally, to have a chit-chat with him, you have told that you had a personal relationship with him sometime to discuss about politics. So when exactly did you start to have such a dialogue? Answer. There was no limit to I had no specific schedule to go and see him. When I had the opportunity, I went to see him. I did not have a fixed schedule to see him monthly or daily, since I worked at the hospital. I sometimes went to visit my family member at the Ministry of Agriculture, said the witness. So I could see him at the time. President, you stated that your family member worked at the Ministry of Agriculture. Was that person your wife, or was that person your husband, or how was that person related to you? Answer. My mother, my biological mother, was working there, and my grandmother-in-law was there as well. And there was another relative at that place. Question. You appear to know exactly the location of the East headquarter or office. Where was it? The office, the zone office, was originally based at Suong. Later on, it was moved to Samrao Koki, south of Don Tay. It was called Tul Samrao or Tul Koki, where the office was based. There were houses there, and there was also a hospital. Question. Which sector was Suong in at the time? And which sector Samrao and Don Tay were in at the time? And where are they at the current time? Answer. Suong was referred to as Sector 21 from the north of National Road to Samrao. So there were Sector 20 and 21, one in the south and another one in the north. President, thank you very much for trying to answer my question to your best ability. It is now time for break. We will take a break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please find a proper place for the witness in the waiting room during the break time, and please invite him back into the courtroom with the duty counsel at 3 p.m. The court is now in recess.